You ever listen to the Hodge twins?
Occasionally, yes. How about you?
Yeah. Occasionally, yeah. It just depends if they're discussing something I find interesting. But they're both
Yeah.
former Marines, of course.
Okay.
Makes them just fine Americans. They always do that. Got a damn good show. That's
I
us today.
haven't. I've seen clips. I've never seen like a full open with them or anything like
Oh,
that. So,
that's what they got a damn good show, and the other brothers saying the same thing.
as if anybody's gonna start with a show with pretty mediocre today, guys.
Yeah, I'm not feeling
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, that's most days when I climb out of bed, it's like we'll see where it goes.
Oh, I love
So,
your shirt.
thank you. Yes, SHTF is a process, and we're going to dig into something that's a little bit of a process today. And you're on a bit of a clock, so we're going to rip through this because it's about 20 slides. It's going to be a goer today, but we'll get you guys through the high points of it here. We won't delve too much into the weeds on this. How's that sound, brother?
Well, that's good. I mean, and I'll make some notes in case of stuff we need to come back to next week. Here, I'll
Okay.
get my pen and pad ready. And for those 5 that are watching us live, please like and hit that share button. I'm going to try to keep my nuanced commentary to a minimum today because I definitely want to see what Will's got in store for us. So buckle up, folks. Here we go.
Yep. And before we start though, I want to take just a moment, brother. You've really come a long ways. We started this 4 years ago, and
5 now, bro.
5. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, your ability to see the nuance and stuff and understand the interconnections of these things has grown leaps and bounds, brother.
Well, thank you, sir. Kind
Uh,
words. I appreciate that.
well, I'm hoping for a pay raise. So, you know, there's always
And
an
you both.
ulterior motive, So, I mean, daddy's got a car habit to support. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
you do. Yes, you
So,
do.
so all right, so let's jump right in. Our typical start here with the CNN Fear and Greed Index. It was at 20 when I made this slide last night. It's at 19 this morning. The market is going down pre-market. Quick aside on that, I would expect to see more of that. Trump all but came out and said so in that joint address to Congress. Stick with me through the short-term pain. It'll be worth it in the long run. He all but said, expect a recession, expect bad times. That's the way I took that. So we need to be prepared for that. And I think what we're going to hit on today is going to dig into that. So, and right now, what is roiling the markets is this uncertainty with the trade policies, specifically the tariffs. And the market is down 7% as of this article, which was on the 6th, down even more. It was up a little bit Friday, down, going to be down again today, I think. And you also notice that Trump is not talking about the stock market like he did in his first term. I read something somewhere, take your for it's worth it. By this point in his first term, he tweeted about the stock market 160 times, and this time it's like 3.
Oh, really?
Now, there's 2 ways to look at that. The first way to look at it is, it was going up the first time, so he took a bunch of credit for it. The other way to look at that is he doesn't care about the stock market this time because he wants to take care of these trade imbalances where we're, sending our wealth overseas and we're leveling the playing field for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is probably some of both. Because if he was doing these things and the stock market was going up, I bet he'd be tweeting about the stock market or Xing about it or whatever. So that is what it is. And if you love him, you'll be like, well, he's got more important stuff. If you hate him, it would be like, well, it's because he's a moron.
Perfect.
So take your pick. That's pretty much that slide.
Okay.
All right. FHA, Federal Housing Administration. They insure the loans, mortgages, specifically homes, hospitals, and other properties, mainly homes. The vast majority of it, both in the numbers and the dollars, are for homes. They don't actually give out the loan; they insure the loan. So they work with banks, your local banks, and the bank gives out the loan. FHA says, you know what? If they don't make the payments, we'll backstop it. That's what the FHA does. Okay. They also collect the mortgage insurance if you have mortgage insurance, and they're the ones that pay off the bank if you don't make your payments, if you don't have 20% down. Okay.
Well, that's nice of them. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it's all done out of the kindness of their hearts. So the basically FHA loans are the people the banks wouldn't loan money to if the FHA, if the government didn't back it.
Subprime, right?
Not
Most-
always
not all, but-
subprime, but maybe somebody who's got a little better than prime, but maybe doesn't have a lot of money to put down. Maybe their debt to income ratio overall is not good. Higher risk, not necessarily bad credit, but a higher risk. People who don't have a lot of other savings, things like that. People that if you and I were going to loan money out, we'd be like, don't know about that one. Okay. And you can also see here the second bullet point under who qualifies is they've suffered a bankruptcy or foreclosure. That's a bad risk going forward, right?
Sure.
So we want to kind of set the tone for today's show with, what does the FHA do? It was initiated under FDR in 1934. Let's think about those times. Depths of the Depression, the banks don't want to loan money out, so the government stepped in and said, we'll guarantee that loan. Let's get things going again here. Okay. So that's where we're at now. Of course, anything that is in DC, it can be used as a political tool, right?
No.
I know, silly talk.
Now you're going full on conspiracy.
Hang on, hold on.
No way. It's back, ladies and gentlemen.
It's back. The tinfoil hat is back with the antenna. They go out to Doge.
Okay? Yeah, I love it.
So I know this makes exactly once a government agency has been used for political purposes. This is once you were here for it, folks, and there ends today's show. Okay. All right. So we set up now who FHA is. Now let's dig into something I almost never do. Matter of fact, I think it's the first time on the show. If you go back or go to the next slide.
Okay.
We're going to talk about an opinion piece. Normally I immediately ignore any opinion piece because by definition, they're trying to push an agenda.
Correct.
Right? This one, they're definitely pushing an agenda. No two ways about it. It's Wall Street Journal. They're pushing an agenda, but they're pushing it with a lot of numbers on this one. Typically, your opinion pieces tend to be more, we think this politician should do this or that or blah, 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 and just straight up opinion. Well, this is an opinion about something that should happen, but it's backed up with a lot of numbers. So we got about 18 slides worth of numbers here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So let's dig in here, and then we tie it together with some stuff from the Federal Reserve as well. So Biden's mortgage relief, in quotes, fuels higher housing prices. Well, this one caught my attention because these high home prices, I mean, it's tough out there for young folks to get started right now.
Yeah.
Really tough. It's real easy for guys with gray hair like me and you to be like, oh, you just need to work harder. And I mean, we've seen what the price of everything else has done. It is different than when we were kids.
100%.
Okay. And I get very frustrated with our generation and the boomers when they're like, oh, these kids just don't. No, it is different this time. Back in the day, rates were 16, 17, 18%, but a house was $30,000.
Exactly.
Now your median price in the country is like $420,000, and you're running a 6.5% mortgage.
And wages have been flat since 1999.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So it is different this time, and not in a good way for these young folks. And we're going to talk about how this, at the very end, we're going to tie this back together with a self-defense preparedness aspect right at the very end. So, all right. So we're going to talk about how this quote unquote relief is helping create this housing market that's making it difficult for folks.
Okay.
All right. So, the problems began under the Obama administration. They eased underwriting standards. So that's basically the parameters that have to occur for this loan to be guaranteed by the government. Okay.
Sure.
That enabled more home buyers whose debt payments exceeded 43% of income. Let's think about that. Your debt payments exceed 43% of your income. Let's make it easy for my Illinois public school education and call it half. That means your debt payments are half of your income. That's your gross income, brother.
Jesus.
Okay.
You
So
gonna
they made it easier for people with basically half their income to get a government backed loan, government guaranteed loan. Now, let's think about the Obama administration. Came in 08, right?
Mhm.
Housing market was in shambles, right?
Right.
Teetering on the edge of a depression. I think you can make that argument. Definitely a really bad recession. They want to get things moving again.
Yeah.
Correct. So let's think about where they were. So right away, when they changed this, it was political. All
Mm.
right. So these borrowers are risky because they may not be able to make payments if their income drops or expenses rise. Now, thank God neither of those things has been happening in the last number of years, right?
That was
Okay.
sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, absolute sarcasm. Okay. So let's just pretend I need these to read my own screen here. This is from the chart here is from the Federal Reserve. This is business sector hours worked for all workers. Hours worked, not wages, not income. This is hours worked.
Okay.
And I indexed this back to 2015 here, starting as a 0. And so everything's based off 2015. And this is my formatting got goofed up here, guys, on the left. Sorry about that. It's a percent change versus 1 year ago. So this is hours worked compared to a year prior.
Okay.
All right. Look at the right-hand side of this chart. It is now less than it was in 2015. Now, their hourly wages are everybody's hourly wages, I hope, are up since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So are your expenses. And as you rightly pointed out, more so than the wages. That's just the way inflation works. Wages are always going to lag, right?
Oh, yeah.
So now, what else happens when your home value goes up? Insurance is going to go up. Replacement value is going up. I just redid the insurance on the house here. The replacement value was like, oh my gosh, to rebuild compared to what it's crazy, right? Property taxes are based on a percent of value, right? So that's going up while your hours worked are going down.
That ain't good.
That ain't good. Okay, so we're starting to see the setup here, right? So, and we see it out there. We know eggs have gone parabolic, right? I mean, people are stealing eggs. And I don't mean down at Walmart shoving them in a bag. I mean like hundreds and thousands at a time off trucks. Okay. It's like the new crystal meth or something. Okay? It's crazy some of the thefts that are happening out there.
It's like Zimbabwe.
It is. Okay. So now we've set it up. This 43% is going to keep coming back around and around as we talk about this, guys. So in 2007, 35% of new FHA borrowers had debt to income ratios above 43%. So 2007, basically a third of them had this high debt to income problem. In 2020, it was 54%. Okay. Now we don't know. I'm assuming that was the totality of 2020. Okay. Now, so this is post at least some stimmy checks, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's that. Now, look at last year's number, brother. What does that say?
See, the FHA kept insuring mortgage to borrowers who were increasing the leverage. About 64% of FHA borrowers last year exceeded the 43% threshold. Ooh.
So 2/3 exceeded this. So now they're buying very expensive homes with a very high debt to income ratio. We know what insurance costs have done. Raise your hand if you've looked at that bill lately.
God.
Okay. And these folks have very high debt to income. Michael Gentile says, does that mean Easter potatoes for the kids? It could very well. Painting them is going to be an issue, but we're working our way through that right now. We're going to do a whole nother show on painting potatoes.
It's actually not a bad idea. Mark Hamilton is out there in Ontario, Canada, and they have a new prime minister.
I saw that, yes.
Mr. Carney, former Goldman Sachs guy, an acolyte of the WEF. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, and it's odd. I did not know he was a former Goldman Sachs guy. Trump's got a couple of former Goldman Sachs guys. So
it's weird.
Yeah, there might be some connections there. Maybe we can work through some of these issues here. So what we're seeing is from 2007 to this year, last year, 2024.
Yeah,
You know, we're looking at almost a doubling.
I know. And
Probably what, 80% increase
yeah,
in
it's 17
these
years.
folks. Yeah. So, you know, and it's easy to keep going back to that well from the
But where
government
does it go
standpoint,
from
right?
here? My God, man.
Well, it's funny you asked that. I think I've got about 14 more slides here. You're going to dig into that.
Good.
So this is just a chart of that, showing it year by year.
Oof.
FHA subprime bubble, their word, not mine. Share of borrowers with debt to income ratios above 43%. And you can look back at 2000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were at 25%.
Yeah.
And you can watch it happen here. You know, 05, 06, 07, it's going up. And that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, tough times through, I'm thinking more like 9, 10 here, right? And then it drops down between, say, 2010 and 2015. Makes sense. Things recovered.
Mm-hmm.
Also, home prices went down a lot. So there's two sides of that equation for where's your percentage at for your debt service.
Mm-hmm.
And you also bear in mind, FHA is backing loans of people who've been foreclosed on or have a bankruptcy. So if they went, let's just say they went through a bankruptcy, got rid of the credit card debt,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, and got foreclosed on during that same period of time, and they're renting, well, suddenly their debt to income looks a whole lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So therefore, not as many people are going to breach this 43% ratio after the shock of the housing crisis in 2008, 2009. And then look about 2015. Giles on. Good morning, sir. Hope all is well in the Philippines.
And Mark says, wouldn't that be wonderful? I guess they're talking about Daniela Smith, because if she could become the prime minister of Canada. Yeah, it's funny. Carney is talking a big game, and we will see. But, you know, this is the same guy, not to get too far afield, Carney, who wrote a book about, you know, getting rid of petroleum industry entirely. That's not good news for Canada, is it?
No. Yeah, that's a great little fantasy he's having.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to the show.
Yeah. Got some unicorns in the back room he can have later on too. What's Alan Kelly have to say there? Is that
another problem with higher housing prices in the housing market is your local government has raised your property assessment. Our property went from $248,000 to over $485,000 assessment. Crazy. That soars our real estate taxes skyward. The commissioner of revenue in our county does not like me coming to their office. Well, God bless you for that, making your voice heard. I love it.
Yep. Make some noise on those, and and don't stop with that first meeting. If things go the way I think they're going to go in the next few years, you can go back later and get that changed again. I've done that. It's a process. It takes a little paperwork. You're going to have to show comps, that sort of thing. But it's well worth it.
Heck yeah. Save you some money.
Absolutely. So, all right. What's this one say, brother?
No surprise, many are missing payments, especially recent borrowers. About 7.05% of FHA mortgages issued last year went seriously delinquent. 90 or more days past when a payment is due within 12 months. That's more than at the 2008 peak of the subprime bubble. My God.
Yep.
More than 2008 peak?
Yep.
And nobody's talking about this?
Nope. Nobody's talking about this. And we're going to get into why. And there's a very good reason nobody's talking about this. And I didn't know about it until I read this article, and you're just learning about it today. There's a very good reason. There's a really good reason. Go back to that previous one.
Okay.
So let's think about this. Going 90 or more days past due within 12 months of getting the loan.
Oh, within 12 getting the loan.
Oh, he says. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, that's a little tidbit in there. Okay. So now this chart from below, the Fed doesn't break out FHA. So this chart down here is delinquency rate on single family residential mortgages, all commercial banks. So this is all banks.
Okay.
Okay. And this chart I've got going back to 2019, and it's changed from the year ago. So it looks at this, in this case, the last one is Q3 of 2024. It looks at Q3 2023. That's your percent change.
Okay.
And you can see where it bottomed out in the first quarter of 2022. And look at the delinquency rate since then.
Jesus.
What else has happened with prices since then? Exactly. So I'm seeing yet another indication that people are absolutely squeezed. And as usual, and as you and I have talked about, people on the bottom end of the scale feel it first, right? And this is a big one. Now, before we get to Doug's comment there, to your point in your surprise, this is higher than at the peak in 08. And like you said, nobody's talking about it. If you go to this Wall Street Journal article, guys, if you click on that 7.02, you can see there that's a link. It goes back to the report from 2008.
Okay.
So if you want to dig a little deeper in those numbers, if you want to geek out on that, knock yourself out. I took one look at it.
Let me ask you a stupid question, Will. You've obviously read this article. I have not, and neither is, I don't think probably anybody watching this one. Are these ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages? Are these, what's causing the first 12 months people are already 90 days delinquent if it's not an ARM or something? These people knew what they were getting into, I suppose, because the new closing restrictions are voluminous as to making sure the borrower knows what they're getting into, right?
Yes, they are. And we're going to dig in a little bit. So hold that thought.
Okay.
Let's see if we get that answered for you. If we don't, ask it again. Okay.
Yeah. And Doug's comment is basically saying, they're pushing for reassessment because property taxes fund the schools. And of course, Ohio, he says the Ohio Supreme Court has ruled it unconstitutional, but it ain't changing nothing.
Yeah. See, now on the flip side of that, they don't, here in Wisconsin, they have a penchant for school referendums. And we're going to do $30 million and so on and so forth. And, so it's on the ballot and people vote on it. This is for the children, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for a solid education system, guys, but I lit into our local school board because the cafeteria is at least 20 years past due for being remodeled and redone.
Right.
And it's like, where were the grownups in the room? When stimmy checks were flying around in 2020, why didn't you use some of the money there? When things were good in 2016, 2017, why weren't we raising taxes when times were good? Instead of when people are already getting squeezed and now you've backed yourselves into a corner. Path of least resistance until it's an emergency, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're seeing that throughout the country is my point. So we see delinquencies going up. This is all commercial banks again, but all commercial banks includes people who do not have to get an FHA loan. And this is still rising like this. Now, an argument can be made, okay, what's really normal? And to be honest, I can't remember. I looked further back on this chart, but the trend, the short-term trend does matter. And we can see how this has been going for 3 years? And bear in mind, this only goes through the third quarter of 2024. I would imagine it went up again. That's all the further the Fed's data went was third quarter of last year. So here's one for you. You're gonna love this one, guys.
Can you read it?
Please do, sir.
Under the guise of COVID relief, the Biden administration masked the growing troubles in the housing market by paying off borrowers and mortgage services to prevent foreclosures. Of the 52,531 FHA loans last year that went seriously delinquent within their first year, of course, that's the 90 days or more, only blank in foreclosures.
Okay, so we're going to play Stump the Chump. How many? Take a guess. You can do it as a percentage.
Only a quarter.
Go to the next slide.
Okay. 9?
9.
Not 9%. 9.
Nope, 9. And I tried to run the percentage on that, and I got one of those exponential things that I can't understand.
It's a rounding error. It's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. 9. Basically 0.
Holy cow.
Okay. So these are the ones. These are the ones that went, like you were talking about, seriously delinquent within the first year. So they're more than 90 days past due in the first year, but they only foreclosed on 9. Now, why is that? When I read that, it was like, why? There's always a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Correct? Well, let's dig into that.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But wait, there's hope.
There's always hope, right? You want to read this one off for us, brother?
Sure. The FHA instituted a program that pays mortgage services to make borrowers missed payments for them. Missed payments are added to the loan's principal, but without interest. The FHA also pays servicers to cut monthly payments for delinquent borrowers by 25% for 3 years, with the payment reductions also added to the principal without interest. My God, man,
Uh-huh. It's worse than a credit card company.
it's unbelievable.
So we'll ask what demographic were they? Don't know. Doesn't go into in this article.
Use your imagination.
Yes. So you miss a payment and they tack it on. Okay. Well,
Do they know anything about human behavior at this point? Anything?
well, it's odd you mentioned that. We're going to get to that. Okay. So they also pay the servicer to cut monthly payments for up to 3 years. Okay.
We need Doge to stomp in this mud puddle real
Well,
quick.
and we're gonna dig into that because it's a double-edged sword, right?
Uh,
I'm with you in principle, 110%,
mhm.
but I think there needs to be a very honest conversation with the American public about what that's going to cause, and we're going to get there. Okay. So now,
But here's the thing, man, and
Mhm.
this is a harsh reality.
Mhm.
Not everybody can own a home.
Mhm.
Let me say that again. Not everybody can or should own a home for a
Mhm.
whole host of reasons. Whether that's, because I'm not going to get into it because that's an hour-long show in and of itself. But I fully believe, and I
Yeah.
hate to say that, it would be nice if every American was somebody with an IQ of 72 that they
Yeah.
can't figure it out, man. And it's
Right.
just beyond their ability to do that.
Yes, agreed. And as Judge Smales taught us in Caddyshack, the world needs ditch diggers too. Right?
Yes, sir, they do.
So this is the way it rolls, right?
Mhm.
So I'll read this one off for you, brother. So consider a borrower who misses 5 $4,000 mortgage payments. The servicer will add $20,000 in missed payments to the mortgage and reduce the monthly payments by $1,000 a month for 3 years, adding another $36,000 to their mortgage.
Mhm.
So the borrower is $56,000 deeper in debt with no additional interest.
Mhm.
If he misses payments again, the servicer rinses and repeats, getting $1,750 every time it lathers up. So every time
Whoa.
it does this, the servicer is getting paid. The FHA also lets servicers charge borrowers legal fees that are added to the mortgage principal. So in this case, they would be $56,000 deeper in debt plus the legal fees.
Bro, that is insane. How
It
did this
is.
freaking happen?
So lenders have every reason, other than morals, ethics, and being decent people, to originate loans they know can't be repaid.
Does this remind anybody of the run up to the housing crisis? It's
Oh,
exactly the
yeah.
same.
When I read this article 4 times, like
Damn.
read it. I was blown away. See, Craig's here from the UK.
He
Good to
said
see you,
from
sir.
communist UK.
Yes.
I love the UK. Obviously, everybody knows that, but it's that watches a show. But man, you're going down the
Yeah.
tubes, brother. I literally need to start praying for your country every freaking day because it's our strongest ally, man. And if they're
Yeah.
going full on socialist, we're in trouble.
And I think we should do an evening show, maybe a cocktail show,
Yeah.
and talk about how this world is backed into so many corners.
Mhm.
Right.
Good
And that's
point.
not new in
No.
fairness. I mean, the world's been backed into many corners for a long time, but I'm seeing this. I'm seeing the Doge thing is going to cause disruptions. We're seeing that. We're seeing it with people we know and love.
Mhm.
And we're seeing things like this. So, back to this. So, let's bear in mind this in this hypothetical example they give of a person with a $4,000 monthly mortgage payment just got $56,000 plus whatever legal fees added on to their mortgage. They only had to put 3.5% down to begin with.
Mhm.
So if you've got the median home at $420,000 ish in the United States, they put down about $14,000.
Mhm.
Well, they're $40,000 underwater right now.
Oh yeah. And
Boom.
sinking fast.
And sinking fast, right? So how long before we see distressed sales?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you when we're going to see distressed sales is when whenever they stop covering this up. Whenever they stop papering this over, that's when we're going to see it. Okay.
Music stops.
Yep. And then there's going to be another music called Jingle Mail.
You want to remind everybody what that is for those that
That came about during the housing crisis in 2008, 2009. That's when people would literally just mail the keys of the house to the bank. And by the time the bank got there, the house had been empty and they were gone. Okay. Yeah. Now, let's tie this back around a little bit here. Politically speaking, what happened last time there was a housing crisis?
Bailout.
Bailout happened. What happened? Which way did the country move politically, left or right?
Good question.
Who got elected in 2008?
Oh, frickin' Obama got reelected, didn't he?
He got elected for the first time because the housing crisis happened in the lead up to that election, right?
That's right.
And so the country took a decided turn to the left.
And if you remember, Bush saying during his term, every American has a right to have a home and all this BS. I'm like,
yeah,
no, they don't.
Nope, they don't. Yep. And that's Doug says QE was prominent the last housing crisis. That's where QE came from. I mean, they call it
easing. That's printing money, folks.
Exactly right. QE1, QE2, and QE infinity.
QE.
So sorry if you guys can hear the dogs. I'm not sure what's going on.
No worries, man.
So, all right. So the FHA has made, call it $500,000 incentive payments to servicers over the past year to prevent foreclosures. $500,000.
God almighty.
Right. So we're talking
probably about $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking almost, we're talking about 45,000 of them a month.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot. Nearly as many as the new mortgages it insured. Right? Government-backed mortgage relief has become a cash cow for servicers, some of which originated the risky loans they are paid not to foreclose.
This is the Big Short all over again. I mean, it really is.
It really is. The difference is this time there's no way to short.
No.
Before you could short the banks, right? And that's what they did through the credit default swaps. That's what Dr. Michael Burry did, right? Who are you going to short this time?
I don't know.
At risk, right? Who's at risk? It's the government, right?
Yeah, but that's what I said.
So now
baby.
Now, this is off the top of my head here, guys, and not financial advice. Okay, not financial advice from a guy who made his own T-shirt here. Okay.
And his own tinfoil hat.
Yes, made it myself. There's multiple free tinfoil hats in every box of tinfoil. What can you short this time? The US dollar.
Oh, God.
Because what are they going to do when this happens? There's going to be no choice. They're going to print money like it's going out of style.
Printer go
and you'll be happy. What goes up when the dollar goes down? Gold.
Yeah. And it's almost at $3,000 an ounce, which is crazy. It's almost doubled since 2020.
Yep. And it's not just because there for a while it was moving in tandem with the dollar, but really gold, I use it. The traditional way is it was a hedge against the dollar, but it's been moving together a lot. It really, I've come to think of it more as a fear gauge.
Yeah, because that's not normal. Like you said, they usually move. Not
they usually it's inverse.
That's the word. Yeah, inverse.
So this is Will Parker says citizens must bear the burden. And now if they start printing money again, hold on a second. They start printing money again, what's going to happen to inflation?
Oh God. It's a funny thing.
We're backed into another corner.
The idea of inflation, we think of inflated prices. It's inflating the amount of dollars in the system. That's where the root word is. It's not inflation in egg prices. It's an inflation in the amount of dollar floating around.
Yep. So let's think about this right now. If we start printing money, and usually before you print money, they lower interest rates. If they lower interest rates, there's going to be people out there with 7% mortgages ish who are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to refinance, right? What's going to happen to house prices if interest rates go to 1%? Boom, up, right?
Yep.
What happened to your property taxes then? Up, right?
Mhm.
Go right down the laundry list of all these things. And you and I've been talking about for a long time, and we've said you're not going to like what it takes to get back to 2% mortgages, 3% mortgages.
No.
You're not going to like the process of getting there.
Mm-mm.
So
You might
this
like the
is,
destination,
yeah, right.
but getting there's going to be awful.
Yep. So this is the moral hazard. These banks are incentivized. Why wouldn't you hand out money to people who cares if they can repay it? I have no skin in the game. Matter of fact, they make more money if the people can't pay the mortgage.
Again, guys, if you haven't watched skip Michael Lewis's book at The Big Short and just watch the movie where they're talking to the two real estate agents.
Mhm.
Mortgage providers down in Florida, and they're like, actually, he's the guy that goes after those with the worst credit, and he makes the
Mhm.
most money, and they're trying to
Yeah.
scratch their head like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. But
The
again,
more money you make, the more people you can find that can't afford the home. How does that make
Mhm.
sense? Well, it makes sense. Just what Will just shared with us right there.
Mhm. And you incentivize humans a certain way through money. They're going to do those things.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Period. And we all do it.
We all
Right?
do it.
We all do it. And there's no, I mean, you can be like, well, these people shouldn't be doing this.
Can I give you a quick thing I saw like when we were in Scotland last time? We were taking a tour, and they're all the windows are fake. They're just painted on in this one section of town. And they're like, you'll notice that there's really almost no buildings here with windows. They're all painted on. And I'm like, holy crap, you're right. Because they decided that borough of Edinburgh decided they were going to tax windows. So the more windows you had, the higher
Mhm.
your tax went. So guess what these frugal Scots did? Not a problem. Get some bricks, brick them up,
Mhm.
and we'll
Yep.
paint on windows. Humans will freaking, if you
Yep.
put an incentive out there, they're going to respond to it.
Yeah. That's all the tax code is.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? The government wants you to buy homes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's incentives. You get to write off your mortgage interest. That actually came about. Home builders pushed for that, right?
Really?
But yeah, back in the 50s, I think, home builders were like, hey, if you guys would make this interest deductible, we could sell more homes. And they went, sure. And so this
It
is
worked.
where it comes from, right? And we all react to it, right? One of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons to buy a home versus rent is the wealth you build and the appreciation over time. And by the way, a lot of that appreciation comes from the devaluing of the dollar over time, which is how the whole system is set up to work.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason the numbers work is because you can write off the mortgage interest and the property taxes.
And that doesn't help somebody like me who has no mortgage,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, where's the incentive to
Yeah.
pay your debt off? There is no
Yeah.
incentive.
That's why I don't, because I'm incentivized not to.
That's
And
exactly right.
I'm financed under 3%. I can go make more than that in tax-free municipal bonds and make the spread on it.
That's right.
And that's
Smart.
exactly what I do. So, what's this one I have to say, bro?
Another result is that home prices keep increasing because borrowers who don't pay their mortgages and never should have qualified for their loans can't get foreclosed on or be forced to sell their homes. Getting foreclosed on these days is like flunking out of college. It takes effort. You have to reject repeated offers for mortgage relief.
So, if these people can't get foreclosed on and can't be forced to do, say, a short sale, maybe is that part of the reason we have a housing shortage in some areas?
Yes.
And therefore, so now let's think about it.
Because that house should come back on the market.
Absolutely, it should. At an auction, if it's a foreclosure, at whatever the market will bear, and suddenly that becomes a comp for other places,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But there's
So
none of that happening.
there's none of
That's
that
a great
happening. And
point.
let's think about who put this program on steroids. It was the Biden administration.
The worst
Because
administration probably in history of America.
I would agree with you there, sir.
Yeah.
But politically, did they want to see a bunch of foreclosures going into the 2024 election?
Nope.
Nope. They sure didn't. So what's an easy behind the way scenes to do that? Right here.
Right here. Case in point.
Right. And because where did it start falling apart in 2008? Same portion of the market.
Mm-hmm.
To where it started at. Investors played a big part in 08. It's not happening this time with FHA loans, as far as I am aware, but it certainly rhymes.
How come
Okay.
how come you didn't want me to describe? I mean, they all may not be technically subprime,
Mm-hmm.
but this
Well,
sounds
yep.
eerily similar.
Yep, we're gonna get into that in just
Okay.
just a second here. There's a
Okay.
chart coming up. Okay, so this shortage of homes on the market, these policies are making this worse, right?
Mm,
So now what's that? So now there's a shortage. What are home builders doing? Building like crazy,
mhm,
right? New homes are more expensive than existing homes. So that's driving up the overall cost. Now we're seeing this turn in certain areas, Florida, parts of Texas, part of Arizona, because they can only do so much, right?
mhm.
And so, we're seeing certain, and housing is always local, guys. Like up here in Wisconsin, we're only running like a 2.5 month supply of homes where I'm at. And there's almost no building going on. There's no vast subdivisions
Mhm.
going up in rural Wisconsin. So when we talk about this, guys, we're talking about big picture stuff. Your local market is most likely different.
Mhm.
Okay. So do keep that in mind. What's Craig say there?
He says, and I think this is the same thing in Ireland. He says, in the UK, if you have an empty property, you still have to pay tax. If you remove the roof, you don't. And I think that's common to the British Isles, that idea, and it dates back to the old thatch roofs that were relatively easy to put on,
Okay.
and take off. But man, the consequences of that,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yep.
And the taxes are insane over there. So it's in everyone's incentive to rip that damn roof off as fast as you can get it off. And now, guess what happens to the values of the homes in that neighborhood?
They plummet.
They plummet.
Yep. So yet again, taxes incentivize people. Give people
Now,
a set of incentives, they'll do it.
exactly. It says, what happens if these safety nets get doged? This is what I'm
Yep.
interested in.
Well, and this is what we've kind of been leading up to, because Doge's event. This is low hanging fruit for Doge, right?
Sure.
They're showing out a lot of money, and it's going to be pain between here and there, but putting these homes back on the market will lower home prices.
Yes.
It's going to be painful in the meantime. You're going to hear all kinds of, you can go to the next slide, brother. You're going to hear all kinds of stories about people losing their homes and that sort of stuff. And it's going to be bad. And I feel for those people. They never should have been those homes in the first place, just like in 2006-7. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's this one have to say, man?
The Biden administration built a house of cards that could collapse if Trump. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
So this opinion piece is from the Wall Street Journal. The Biden administration built a house of cards that could collapse if Trump officials dare to end the mortgage giveaways as they should. Foreclosures would inevitably increase, which could cause home prices to fall sharply in lower income neighborhoods with more FHA mortgages.
Yep. And like we just alluded to, the media is going to lock onto these stories just like they locked onto the federal workers who are getting doged when they never did a single story about the Keystone Pipeline workers when Biden got in office. Right?
Let me tell you something else too. My wife, last night we were talking about the young man who beat cancer and wants to be a police officer. And there's a video out there of him being mocked and ridiculed in the Black community. It will rip your heart out if you haven't seen it. And my wife says, okay, well, and we're conservative Christians, both voted for Trump, me and my wife. But she said, okay, but everything I'm hearing is Trump is stopping cancer research. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, yeah, he's stopping this cancer research money. I'm like, no. What he's saying is normally when we give money to the National Institute for Health, they take that money and half of it goes to indirect costs and half of it goes to direct costs. What Trump is saying, and perhaps this is coming from Doge, is we're not paying for half of your indirect costs. And that's all this bullshit administrative crap that they put in, hiring consultants and all the grift. Indirect costs is going to be capped at 15%, so that more money goes to the actual research. But the spin, of course, is, oh my God, Trump doesn't care about childhood cancer. He's letting these kids die. So the same thing here. Like if he does something about it, which he should, what's it going to look like? What's the optics? How's it going to be used as a tool to weaponize against him and administration?
And that dovetailed beautifully into the point I want to make. And I'm going to can you bring Alan Kelly's comment up about what would happen if? What would happen if our government actually had to have a balanced budget, even if that is possible? First, I'm not sure it's really possible without a lot of changes, but I'm reminded of Ross Perot when he ran for president. Remember him sitting on Larry King with his charts?
Oh, yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
No,
Trump,
100%.
or more, probably not Trump. Probably, I don't know. Pick your official, okay? Because Trump's too polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
Have and do it on television. Release it as videos. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the why. Explain this exactly what they talked about in this opinion piece from the Wall Street Journal. This is what has happened. This is what the Biden administration did. This is what we are doing. These are going to be the effects. There is going to be pain. The market's going to normalize. Most Americans are grown up enough to look at that and go, yes, something needs to be done. And whether they want to be the grown-ups in the room or not, there won't be any surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, that's why FDR did the fireside chats on the radio, right? Because he couldn't get the fair shake from the media at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he went straight to the people. I think that's what needs to happen a whole lot here. Otherwise, it's going to fail miserably.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, my wife and daughters were over the weekend. They're like, "Oh, I love Caroline. You know, Trump's new press secretary."
mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Yeah, she's a sharp cookie." And like, "Oh yeah, she's on TikTok doing these MAGA moments every single day." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
And it's just a 1 minute get in and get out. This is what we're doing and what we have accomplished today. And for the TikTok generation, I'm like, I had no idea they were doing it.
I don't know.
But it's easy for them to bite down on a 1 minute clip from her. And anyway, that we need more of that because we have to return moral hazard.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about this the other day about the whole TikTok generation and a 1 minute video. I have noticed my attention span has. I used to be able to sit and read for however long, and now it's like I'm find myself bouncing around. So it's something I'm trying to crack down on.
Our brains get rewired, man. Even us old timers.
Yep, for sure. So, this one is just showing. I went to the source document because I read this opinion piece and I went, okay, it's still an opinion piece. So now we're going to dig into a little bit of source documents and we should be good on your time, brother.
Okay.
All right. So this is from the FHA and here's the link to it. If you guys want to, if you go back to the previous slide there for just a second.
Of course.
If you Google up FHA single family loan performance trends, this will come up. And it'll go to a page with a whole bunch of links and it comes out quarterly. You can go back and look.
Just a quick endorsement for what you're doing here. We've said this 1,000 times. If you read something and it comports beautifully to your own bias, you're in the crux. You could be in the crux of confirmation bias. So I love the fact that you went, well, time out. Let me go and investigate this for myself. Back to the source documents. Well done, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So I'm piecing some charts together here, guys. If you go in, you'll see them. I'm just taking some of the air out from in between here. Okay. All right. So this is table 3, delinquency rates by loan and property characteristics. So if we look at all active loans, the top line here, all past due. So this is anything 30 days plus, including in foreclosure, nearly call it 13% of all active FHA loans are past due. That's pretty significant to me.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'll notice 90 plus days is 3.5%, 3.6%. Okay. Now bear in mind, they write a lot of loans. Okay. So this is a lot of homes out there. Now there's a lot of homes in America, to be sure. But we need to, so we need to keep perspective from both sides on that. Okay. So let's dig deeper.
And my computer is for some reason locking up. Can you move to the next slide?
Yeah.
When you're in.
There we go.
Okay.
So this is also from table 3, delinquency rates by loan and property characteristics. This is where we get into your subprime thing. Okay. So subprime is less than 620 credit score. Okay. So you'll notice over here on the right, serious delinquency rate. And so we start with the below 620 and work our way higher up on the chart is a lower credit score. But you'll notice you got what? 10, 8, 26, 27% of subprime FHA loans are seriously delinquent. Okay. But, there's more.
But wait.
Is it gonna work for you or should I click it over?
Okay, there we go. That's it.
All right, here we go. All right. Still from the same table, just further down. Okay. So this is fiscal year cohort. Okay. So we've got the same all past due, 30 days past, 60 days past, 90 plus. Notice something here. What? Look at the red line there, brother, the vertical red line. And
Mhm.
I X'd out 2025, guys, because it's just a couple of months. It's not that
Yeah.
we don't have enough data there. That's why I put red lines through those. Okay. Look back at 2018. All past due,
Mhm.
19% of all. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because you're looking at people who were kind of hanging on by the skin of their teeth anyway, right?
Mhm.
2019, 21%. I'm going to round these numbers, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
2020, 14%. Makes sense. A lot of stimmy checks,
Yep.
loan forbearance, right? 2021, 13%. 2022, inflation really starts taking off. We're up to 17%. 2023, 15%. Look at 2024. Big drop. Drop by
Yeah,
half.
7%.
They're not past due because
They're
of the
getting
stuff
paid.
we described where they're being allowed to put that off and tack it on the backside of the loan. Right?
That is unbelievable.
Now look
'Cause
at
it
the
looks
right.
like everything's getting better. Wow, look at that.
Yeah. Wow. Look what a great job
All
Biden
the
did in
numbers, yeah.
2024. No, he just made it so they don't have to make their freaking payments.
I mean, look at the in foreclosures, 0.06%.
Yep. Yep.
Impressive. Wow.
So it's, I mean, if you look at that, look at 2018, 0.61% were in foreclosure. I mean, he dropped that by 90%.
I mean, it'd almost be better if he had cooked the books. Instead,
Yeah.
you've created an incentive structure
Mm-hmm.
that when exploited, everybody makes money. And of course, the person that's in the situation, they're getting
Yeah.
screwed, but they probably
Mhm.
don't care, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and in fairness to them, they need someplace to live. At
Yeah.
that point, you're so far deep in the hole, just keep digging.
Yeah,
It's
right.
going to result in bankruptcy. It's going to be the same bankruptcy either way.
But
Right.
at least you kick the can down the road, just like we've been doing
Exactly.
with everything else in this country.
Right. So now we'll go back to that one, previous
Sure.
one there. So let's look at the serious delinquency rate, the yellow vertical line here. 2018, 7%, 8%, 5%, 4, 6%, 5%, 1.72%. He dropped it by 3/4.
It's amazing.
Because again, they're not delinquent when the loan when the payment's getting tacked on the backside. You're not technically delinquent anymore, are you?
No,
Yeah.
you're all caught
And
up.
so now look, and let's think about this. If Trump just normalizes this, right? What's going to happen to your all past due number? If it goes back to, say, a historical standard of, say, 15% ish, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, they're going to be like, oh, it doubled under Trump.
Right.
Yep.
And who can explain the nuance? It's taken us an hour to get through the
Mhm.
nuance, right?
Yep, for sure. So this is, it's going to happen eventually. It has something has to give in this system.
Mhm.
Right. And I would say this would be pretty low hanging fruit for Doge.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. What's Ted have to say there?
Delaying the correction recession has U.S. looking at a deep recession, I feel, by 2030.
Yeah, I would say before that, brother.
Yeah.
The system, the establishment, is going to want this to happen while Trump's in office, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Maybe a little tinfoil hatish, I will admit that. Okay.
Mhm.
Good to see you, Greg.
All right, good to see you, brother.
So that brings us back to this. This is our circle back around to self-defense, American Warrior Society. So when things fall apart, will we turn towards rugged individualism like Reagan talked about, or something else? Well, here's what happened last time,
I know.
right? So, and how was it solved last time? They printed money. And like we talked about, they can't print money this time. Can they? Yes. But what's going to happen to inflation? These people are still entrenched with that inflation mentality, just like the early 70s.
Yeah. It is the last thing we should be doing.
Yep,
Is
I agree.
printing money.
But-
But guess what? That we've created a generation that, you know, and that's why I heard him talking about this $5,000 stimmy checks from the money Doge has recovered. I'm like, what the hell are
Yep.
you doing?
Yeah.
No.
Well, and
Be the responsible adults in the room, for God's sake.
and you know what? In fairness to them, they I think they know what's going to happen with the economy as things get doged.
Mm.
And stimmy checks are a way to offset some of that. I agree with you. I don't want those stimmy checks to happen. But if you look at it through the political lens, I can see why they're pushing that.
Yeah.
And the low information voter is going to be like, hey, I got a Doge check and I didn't lose my job, so all is well.
Yeah.
That's just
and
the
now
political
you
side
just
of it.
exactly now you just change the narrative on what is to be doged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and let's think about how they solved it last time. It was the money printing. It was Obama changing the way FHA loans were done, right?
Mhm.
So, and now here we are, what, 12 years later, and we're going to deal with aftermath of that.
Hmm.
So, and what is different this time is the entrenched. I think the biggest one is the entrenched inflation narrative feeling within people. They're gonna, if they get money, they're gonna go spend it. Because look at the price of everything. I mean, it's I don't have to tell you guys. You guys go out and buy stuff. I do a lot of home improvement. I do all those things. I can't get out of a Home Depot without spending $100.
Oh, what
You
did you
know,
buy when you're there? A couple of things.
there's 2 screws and a washer.
Exactly.
Yeah. I couldn't afford the nuts to go on there, so I'm just holding them really tight.
Yeah, my contractor's like, I've got a project going on here because unlike you, I'm not a DIY guy. So my contractor's like, I'm like, why is this bill so high? He's like, well, I only work with yellow pine. And I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel your pain.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. What's this one say, brother?
I just learned the professional way to say, I told you so. Quote, this was identified early on as a likely outcome.
So I think we've identified a likely outcome here, guys.
Yes, we have.
So this is gonna show up at some point. And selfishly, part of the reason I wanted to do this show was to time and date stamp it for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 6 months, a year, whatever it is, when this comes apart, and somebody on Facebook wants to whine and cry about Trump, I'm just gonna send them a link of this show.
Yeah, and I apologize, guys. I have to run here, or I would have added on some things that are going on in the world. You know, with Iran, you know, and some of these other things that could easily spill into war, and war would be great for a capitalist economy.
Yes, absolutely.
It absolutely would. So, how do we get out of this problem? Maybe a little shooting match couldn't hurt.
Yeah. So, and it's a great way to distract people. Xi Jinping is driving that exact direction for that reason.
Yeah. Russia, China, and Iran are doing joint military exercises right now. And they asked Trump about it last night on Air Force One. And of course, there's a lot of bluster, but that is a serious axis forming together there that we definitely need to be wary of. Yes. And Iran is like, you're not going to stop us from our nuclear ambition. You know, they're really puffing their chest out, and Trump is saying all military things are on the table. And here we go, folks. I'm not trying to fearmonger, but again, you know, the fight may be coming.
Yeah. Well, and there's a difference between fear-mongering and timely warnings, right? They can sound a lot alike, especially everything sounds like fear-mongering to people who are not prepared and don't want to grow up and get prepared. Right. So yeah, there's a lot going on out there. We're coming right up on your time, sir. You got to get going. How about you take us out, brother?
Yeah, guys and gals out there in Warrior Nation, I hope you enjoyed the show today, and special thanks to Will and everything that he does behind the scenes to make this happen, man. Just obviously I couldn't do it without you, man. And you're more valuable than you could ever know, man. So
well, you're very
on behalf of myself and all of Warrior Nation out there, thank you, brother.
No, you're more than welcome. I love doing this. Appreciate the opportunity and like having a chance to present this information to folks.
Well, guys out there, if you enjoy this kind of content, please share it with somebody who needs to understand what's going on there, because the fight is coming. You ready?